Senator Harris, you have also been quite critical of Vice President Biden's policies on race, specifically on the issue of busing in the 1970s, having benefited from busing when you were a young child. Vice President Biden says that your current position on busing, you're opposed to federally mandated busing, that position is the same as his position. Is he right?
That is simply false. And let's be very clear about this. When Vice President Biden was in the United States Senate working with segregationists to oppose busing, which was the vehicle by which we would integrate America's public schools, had I been in the United States Senate at that time, I would have been completely on the other side of the aisle. And let's be clear about this. Had those segregationists their way, I would not be a member of the United States Senate, Cory Booker would not be a member of the United States Senate, and Barack Obama would not have been in a position to nominate him to the title he now holds. And so on that issue, we could not be more apart, which is that the Vice President has still failed to acknowledge that it was wrong to take the position that he took at that time. Now, I would like to also talk about this conversation about Eric Garner, because I, too, met with his mother. And one of the things that we've got to be clear about is that this President of the United States, Donald Trump, while he has been in office, has quietly been allowing the United States Department of Justice to shut down consent decrees, to stop pattern and practice investigations. On that case, we also know that the Civil Rights Division, this is important, the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice said charges should have been filed, but this United States Department of Justice usurped, and I believe it is because that president did not want those charges to go forward, and they overrode a decision by the Civil Rights Division of the United States Department of Justice. Under my administration, the Civil Rights Division will reign, and there will be independent investigation.
Vice President Biden, I want to give you a chance to respond to what Senator Harris just said.
When Senator Harris was the Attorney General for 8 years in the state of California, there were two of the most segregated school districts in the country, in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. And she did not, I didn't see a single solitary time she brought a case against them to desegregate them. Secondly, she also was in a situation where she had a police department when she was there that in fact was abusing people's rights. And the fact was that she in fact was told by her own people, that her own staff, that she should do something about and disclose to defense attorneys like me that you, in fact, have been, the police officer did something that did not give you information would exculpate your client. She didn't do that. She never did it. And so what happened? Along came a federal judge and said, enough, and he freed 1,000 of these people. If you doubt me, Google 1,000 prisoners freed, Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Vice President Biden. And Senator Harris, your response?
That is simply not true. And as Attorney General of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice, I am proud of the work we did, work that has received national recognition for what has been the important work of reforming a criminal justice system and cleaning up the consequences of the bills that you passed when you were in the United States Senate for decades. It was the work of creating one of the first in the nation initiatives around reentering former offenders and getting them jobs and counseling. I did the work as Attorney General of putting body cameras on special agents in the state of...
So I was watching or listening to the debate, and this little interesting tidbit came up between Kamala Harris and Tulsi Gabbard, and I think she kind of destroyed her on the debate stage. But are all the claims true? Let's listen and see.
California, and I'm proud of that work.
I want to bring in Congresswoman Gabbard. Congresswoman Gabbard, you took issue with Senator Harris confronting Vice President Biden at the last debate. You called it a, quote, false accusation that Joe Biden is a racist. What's your response?
I want to bring the conversation back to the broken criminal justice system that is disproportionately negatively impacting black and brown people all across this country today. Now, Senator Harris says she's proud of her record as a prosecutor and that she'll be a prosecutor president, but I'm deeply concerned.
So this is going to be good. She just refocused the conversation. I think she kind of had a plan to hit this, and they kind of gave her a lead in.
concerned about this record. There are too many examples to cite, but she put over 1,500 people in jail for marijuana violations and then laughed about it when she was asked if she ever smoked marijuana.
Oh, wow. 1,500. That's a lot of people. And then to laugh about it? So, what I have here, bring that over, is an article from PolitiFact. They kind of broke down the claims here. So we can see Harris put over 1,500 in jail for marijuana violations and laughed about it. So there's some context missing. But yes, while she was running the Department of Justice in California as the Attorney General, there were at least 1,560 people sent to prison for marijuana-related offenses during her time. Actually shows that there were a bit more than that, almost 1,900. However, her being the Attorney General, she wouldn't have personally prosecuted the cases. They would have been handled by lower-level employees. It is correct that she laughed about using it. So let's take a look at the rest of the claims. So that's partially true. I mean, after she was Attorney General, her opponent running against her in 2014 supported legalizing marijuana, and Harris did not offer her own opinion on that.
She blocked evidence. She blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man from death row until the courts forced her to do so. She kept people in prison beyond their sentence.
Okay. So, here we go. Blocked evidence that would have freed an innocent man. So, yeah, so she's referring to, it looks like, Kevin Cooper on death row. New York Times fact-checked the claim, and he was convicted in 1983 quadruple murder. Okay, so under Miss Harris, the Attorney General, she did not allow new advanced DNA testing in the case, denying Mr. Cooper's request for that. Until the governor, Gavin Newsom, ordered additional DNA testing in the case, and a number of legal and judicial experts said that Mr. Cooper was wrongfully convicted. The advanced testing has not yet proved Mr. Cooper's innocence and allowed him to leave death row. So, partially true. I guess that's waiting on the final verdict on whether or not he was proven innocent by the DNA, or proven not guilty, I should say, and set free. I do think that's that's huge. You're holding some evidence that may be able to take somebody off death row. I mean, don't you want to be sure before, giving someone the death penalty?
To use them as cheap labor for the state of California, and she fought to keep cash bail system in place.
Ooh, cheap labor and cash bail. Let's head back over to PolitiFact here. So Senator Harris ran in office of 5,000 people. Wow, it takes responsibility for all actions. Mostly elected. Okay, so that was part of that. So she kept people beyond their sentence to use them as cheap labor. Comes from an article in the Daily Beast. That despite court orders to reduce state prison crowding, some nonviolent offenders needed to stay in prison system to help combat wildfires. It does not detail how many prisoners. Wow. So lawyers in Kamala Harris's office, while she was Attorney General, argued and fought to keep people in prison in order for the prison system to help combat wildfires. She looked into it and wow, that's she's taking responsibility for the people under her, and they're keeping people in the prison system for cheap labor? Wow. All right, so then the cash bail. Harrison introduced bipartisan encourages state to reform the cash bail system. A year ago, the governor signed in a bill to eliminate the cash bail in the state starting in October 2019. Okay, so Business Insider, blah, 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 pushed to increase cash bail. Okay, in 2004. So, wow, okay. So she did push to move to increase cash bail. It's kind of scary.
That impacts poor people in the worst kind of way.
Thank you, Congresswoman. Senator Harris, your response?
As the elected Attorney General of California, I did the work of significantly reforming the criminal justice system of a state of 40 million people, which became a national model for the work that needs to be done. And I am proud of that work. And I am
interesting.
Proud of making a decision to not just give fancy speeches or be in a legislative.
That didn't sound like a fancy speech. It sounded like she had a topic and she, fired the first shot, and that wasn't even a shot across the bow. That was aimed at the gas tank, aimed at the tires. She didn't deflate. In her campaign, she came out ready to battle.
Body and give speeches on the floor, but actually doing the work of being in the position to use the power that I had to reform a system that is badly in need of reform. That is why we created initiatives that were about reentering former offenders and getting them counseling. It is why, and because I know that criminal justice system is so broken, that I am an advocate for what we need to do to not only decriminalize but legalize marijuana in the United States.
I want to bring Congresswoman Gabbard back in. Your response?
The bottom line is, Senator Harris, when you were in a position to make a difference and an impact in these people's lives, you did not, and worse yet, in the case of those who were on
shots fired, definitely.
Death row, innocent people, you actually blocked evidence from being revealed that would have freed them until you were forced to do so. There is no excuse for that, and the people who suffered under your reign as prosecutor, you owe them an apology.
No wonder she's the top trending Google search after this debate. To which apparently she's being now accused of the R word. Russian bot. Yep, that's right. The boost in her Google searches are being attributed to Russian bots. And now the smearing begins.
Senator Harris.
My entire career, I have been personally opposed to the death penalty, and that has never changed. And I dare anybody who is in a position to make that decision, to face the people I have faced to say, I will not seek the death penalty. That is my background. That is my work. I am proud of it. I think you can judge people by when they are under fire, and it's not about some fancy opinion on a stage, but when they're in the position to actually make a decision, what do they do? When I was in the position.
It sounds like when you were in the position, you kept people in prison and used them for cheap labor.
Of having to decide whether or not to seek a death penalty on cases I prosecuted, I made a very difficult decision that was not popular to not seek the death penalty. History shows that, and I am proud of those decisions.
Senator Harris, thank you very much. Senator Bennett, a question for you.
So, wow. I mean, not 100% as said, as you saw earlier. I mean, it's partly true, partly not. I mean, it was under her reign, so the people working for her were directly responsible, which I do believe that makes her responsible for these things. Stay tuned. Next video, we're going to dig into some of the smear campaign that's occurred against Tulsi Gabbard after this debate night. Again, she's accused of being an Assange sympathizer. Blah, can't speak. And a Russian bot, and so many other things. It's unbelievable. So, anyway, thanks for listening and watching. Hit the subscribe button if you already haven't. Also that little like button. Comment down below what you think.